Story recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a British post-apocalyptic zombie film called 28 Days Later. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. At the Cambridge Primate Research Center, a chimpanzee is strapped to a bed with electrodes on its head. An array of television screens play videos of riots in front of the animal. A group of animal rights activists infiltrates the facility. A room full of chimpanzees in cages angers the group, horrified at the animal's conditions. They start taking photographs as evidence of animal cruelty against the research center. They go further into the room, finding the chimpanzee watching the riot footage. The woman in the group is troubled by the scene, but their leader pushes her to focus on their task to save the animals. A scientist for the research center walks in on them. He rushes to alert security, but one of the male activists catches and stops him. The scientist warns them that the chimpanzees are infected and that their experiments could develop a cure for the animals. When the leader interrogates him about the infection, the scientist simply explains that they're infected with rage. This doesn't convince the activist. The leader orders the others to free the animals, despite the scientist warning them that they're highly contagious. The female activist opens a cage and is immediately attacked by the chimpanzee inside. It bites her until the other man hits the animal's head to force it to let go. The woman starts vomiting blood. The frightened scientist begs them to kill her, but the others don't listen. The woman spits blood onto her fellow activist's face, causing him to recoil. The scientist grabs a metal chair, ready to kill the infected woman. But he's too late. The infection has set in, and the woman attacks him while the monkeys bang on the cage. 28 days later, a bicycle courier named Jim wakes up alone in the hospital. He's strapped to various tubes and surrounded by medical machinery. But there is no one else in the room and no signs of life in the hospital hall. He finds a key under the door and opens it. After finding a set of scrubs, he clothes himself and wanders around the hospital. The building is in disarray, and all the phones are down. Jim gathers drinks and candy bars from the broken vending machines before setting off into the city. The city is quiet and desolated. Signs of chaos are everywhere, filling the Westminster Bridge with trash. Jim calls out for anyone as he wanders around London, but nobody answers. Having no idea what happened, he pushes on, hoping to find any clue as to why the city is empty. While gathering for supplies, he picks up a newspaper with the word evacuation on the front page. It's his first clue about the situation. Soon after, he finds a wall filled with missing person posters and letters from concerned families. Desperate for answers, Jim walks into a dim church, heading up the steps for a better view of the area. He stops when he sees the countless dead bodies littered on the bottom floor. The horrific image has Jim frozen, confused and devastated. He calls out, hoping that there's still someone alive. Immediately, some of the bodies stand, looking at him menacingly. He hears banging on the door across the hallway. A priest forces the doors open, screeching and twitching violently. Jim slowly backs away, fearful of the crazed man before him. The priest charges at him, attempting to grab him, and Jim swings his bag of supplies across his head, causing the priest to tumble down. Jim cries, regretting his action, but the priest continues to clamber towards him. Jim heads down the stairs and out of the church. A few of the raging people chase after him. When he nears the gas station, two people throw petrol bombs at his chasers, helping him escape. They drag him out of the scene just before the gas station explodes. Once the explosion settles, they take him to the subway station. Jim collapses inside the convenience store as the survivors, Mark and Selena, interrogate them. Jim tells them that the last thing he remembers is that he was in a car accident while on the job before he woke up in the empty hospital earlier that day. Mark and Selena recount what happened to the city. It started as riots in small villages. Then it reached the city. The people finally figured that it was not riots but an infection spreading through blood contact, causing the infected to attack others. The government tried to evacuate the cities, but the plague was already everywhere. The last news they heard is that the infection is spreading even in Paris and New York City. The government and army have fallen. Jim refuses to believe that there are no other survivors except for them. He decides that he needs to check on his family. Mark suggests that they all go tomorrow morning when it's safer. The next day, they walk to Deptford, where Jim's parents live. But when they arrive, Jim finds that his parents have committed suicide in their bed, holding a picture of him as a child. At the back of the photograph is a note from Jim's parents. They believe that he already died sleeping in the hospital and that they'll join him in the afterlife. Jim mourns for his parents. Selena tells him that at least they died peacefully instead of being attacked by the infected. But Jim refuses to take comfort in that thought. Mark tells his story of how his parents and sister tried to escape by leaving the country. But when the infected came, he lost track of his family in the chaos. In the end, he only saw his dad getting attacked. Mark agrees with Selena. Jim should be grateful that his parents didn't die on their terms. They decide to stay at the house for the night. While Selena and Mark are asleep, Jim looks around the house, reminiscing about his parents. He watches a home video of his parents, but the lights alert the infected outside. The infected crash into the windows, cornering Jim. Mark comes and kills the infected. Jim recognizes his attackers as their neighbors. Selena quickly interrogates Jim if he was bit or if the infected blood got into his mouth. He says no. They turn to Mark, who's cleaning a wound on his arm. As soon as he noticed Selena looking at him, he's scared and pleading for his life. Without another word, Selena kills him. Jim watches in horror but doesn't question Selena's action. Right after Mark's death, Selena starts gathering supplies and tells Jim to do the same. More infected tend to arrive after an attack, so they can't stay in the house anymore. As they walk in the dark empty streets, Jim finally asks how Selena knew Mark was infected. Selena said that she didn't know, but she could tell from how Mark looked that he knew he was infected. Selena insists that once infected, they only have 10 to 20 seconds to kill the person before they turn. She assures him that if Jim gets infected, Selena will do the same as she did with Mark. Blinking lights from an apartment building catches Jim's attention. They head to the building to investigate. From the building's ground floor, they see the stairs barricaded by shopping carts. They climb the stairs, but Jim stops, feeling unwell. Selena explains that he's crashing, having eaten nothing but candy bars and soda. She gives him pain medication, but they hear the infected rushing to the building before Jim can drink it. The infected reach the stairs and chases after them. Jim struggles to climb, still feeling weak. He pleads for Selena to help him. He finally catches up to her just as Selena is stopped by a man in riot gear. The man tells them to go to one of the apartments while he fights against the infected. However, the girl inside refuses to let them in until her father tells her so. Inside, they meet father and daughter, Frank and Hannah. Frank is ecstatic to find new survivors, but Hannah is wary of them. Frank offers them drinks before shutting off the Christmas lights he set up on the window. That evening, Selena and Jim talk about Frank and Hannah. Selena believes that Frank and Hannah needed them. That's why they saved them. Jim thinks they're just good people. Selena chuckles, saying that they're more likely to slow them down, and she would leave them if that was so. Before turning in to sleep, Jim finally thanks Selena for saving him. The following day, Frank takes Jim to the rooftop, where he had set all the pails and basins he could find to gather water. But it hasn't rained in 10 days, leaving all the buckets dry and empty. The four listen to the radio, hearing a broadcast from the military that promises salvation in a blockade outside of Manchester. Frank plans for them to head there, confessing that he did need them more than they needed his help. He couldn't risk his daughter helpless in the streets if something happened to him. But Selena argues that if the broadcast is a recording, the soldiers may already be dead. Hannah finally speaks up, pointing out that they'll die where they are anyway as they were running out of supplies. They can't protect themselves from the infected in the city either, so they have to try finding the military for better protection. The next day, they take Frank's cab to head to their destination. They watch the devastation in the city from the car window. Countless dead bodies are on the street. They stop in front of a tunnel, weighing the risks of driving inside. The tunnel is the most direct way to their destination, but Jim argues that it's safer to take a longer path in broad daylight. Frank decides to just go into the tunnel to save time. Inside the tunnel, abandoned cars block their way. Frank takes the risk and drives around and over the cars. It works, but a tire gets flattened on the way. Hannah hurries to change the tire while Selena and Jim watch out for the infected. Jim hears something strange in the distance. A large group of rats rushes past them. Selena realizes that the rats are running away from the infected, who have reached the tunnel. Frank and Jim lift the car to help Hannah change the tires. The tire is fixed in the nick of time, and they all rush inside. Frank drives away before the infected reach them. They stop by a grocery store, taking one shopping cart to fill for each of them. The small shopping spree lightens up the group's mood. They load up the car with the supplies and drive away. They stop again to retrieve gas from a fuel truck near a cheeseburger store. While Frank gathers fuel, Jim enters the store, hoping to find cheeseburgers. Instead, he finds dead bodies inside. When he calls out, he's attacked by an infected child, whom he kills using a baseball bat. The group moves on to an old castle ruin, where they have a picnic. Frank points out to a family of horses running free. The group enjoys the peaceful view. After bonding with the rest, Selena confesses that she's changed her mind on only caring about her own survival. Feeling happy for the first time since the outbreak, Selena kisses Jim on the cheek but apologizes immediately. Jim is nonchalant about it but looks glad about the kiss. They decide to camp out in the ruin for the night. Jim, Frank, and Hannah can't sleep, worried if they were safe enough out there. They notice that Selena was sound asleep. Jim wakes her up, asking how she manages to sleep. Selena reveals that she has prescription medicines in her bag. Selena was a chemist before the outbreak. That's how she got the medication. Jim offers Frank and Hannah Valium from Selena's stash to help them sleep. Frank refuses, wanting to be alert in case of an attack. After falling asleep, Jim wakes up with the others gone. He panics and screams, with no one answering him. Frank wakes him up. Jim realizes it was just a nightmare. On the next day, they finally reach the blockade and find that it's in ruins. They investigate the area, hoping for any signs of life. The others have given up, but Frank insists on looking for clues about where the military has gone. Frank walks around the blockade, separating himself from the rest. A crow eating an infected soldier distracts him. He starts lashing out at the crow out of frustration, but ends up getting infected blood into his eye. Hannah finds him. He reminds her that he loves her, alerting Hannah that something was wrong. Frank becomes violent, pushing Hannah away to keep her safe from himself. Jim and Selena rush to Hannah's aid, watching Frank turn from the infection. Selena holds back Hannah as she screams for Jim to kill Frank. Just as Jim is about to fight him, soldiers hiding in the woods start shooting at Frank, killing him quickly. The soldiers take Jim, Hannah, and Selena to their new base at the Worsley house. There, they meet the leader, Major Henry West, who welcomes them. While Hannah is resting, Selena breaks down, worried about Hannah. She didn't want Hannah to go through this life therein. Seeing compassion in her, Jim kisses her, surprising Selena. She kisses him back but quickly rushes out of the room, confused about her feelings. Later that day, Jim talks to Major West. Major West talks about their answer to the infection, which may not be what Jim's group imagined. He gives Jim a tour of the mansion, explaining how they've secured the area and built a civilized living despite the conditions. In the kitchen, Jim meets Private Jones, who's taken up cooking duties for the team. Finally, Major West takes Jim behind the mansion where Mailer, an infected soldier, is chained up. Major West explains that he'd done this to learn about the infected, at least, to find out how long it takes for Mailer and the rest of the infected to die of starvation. That evening, the trio has dinner with the soldiers. They meet the rest of the team: Davis, Bell, Farrell, Clifton, Bedford, and Mitchell, who talks about what it means to go back to a normal life. Major West raises that people have always killed other people, even before the outbreak, so they're still living normal lives. An explosion alerts the soldiers, and they rush to fight the incoming infected people. The infected are running to the mansion from the clearing, and soldiers shoot at them. When Jones successfully kills one, he cheers triumphantly, but Mitchell scolds him to focus. An infected triggers a mine that explodes, ending the fight. The soldiers celebrate their victory. Seeing Selena with her machete, Mitchell takes the weapon from her, assuring her that he will protect her. He mocks her and attempts to force himself on her, but Jim stops him. Mitchell gets the upper hand on Jim, but Farrell slams Mitchell with his gun. Major West stops the commotion, ordering Mitchell to secure the area, and orders Farrell to clear the bodies. He returns the machete back to Selena before inviting Jim for a drink. Alone, Major West confesses that, after he caught Jones trying to kill himself, he promised the team that he would give them any women they rescue. This was why he sent out the radio broadcast, to lure survivors, hoping that there will be women whom the soldiers can repopulate the world with once all the infected die of starvation. To him, it was the only way to give his team hope for the future. Horrified, Jim storms out of the room to fetch Selena and Hannah. He rushes them to escape but is knocked out by the soldiers. When Jim wakes up, Farrell is protecting him from the others. But he's overpowered and subdued. Major West gives Jim a chance to join his team, insisting that they needed the women. Jim refuses and is locked in the cellar with Farrell. In the cellar, Jim listens to Farrell ranting about how Major West had gone insane. Farrell insists that Great Britain is only being quarantined, and the rest of the world is free from the infection. Mitchell and Jones arrive and take the two prisoners in the woods for execution. Jim and Farrell are taken to the place where they dispose of dead bodies. Farrell insults Mitchell, causing tension between them. Mitchell threatens that he'll kill them painfully, but the nervous Jones fires at Farrell instead, sparing him from Mitchell's sadism. Jones nearly hits Mitchell, angering him. The distraction allows Jim to hide. Mitchell and Jones run to find Jim, not knowing that Jim hid amongst the dead bodies nearby. He listens to Jones and Mitchell yell and fire aimlessly, desperate to find him. Jim climbs over the wall and escapes. Seeing his shirt stuck on the barbed wires, Mitchell is confident that he'll be dead soon anyway. A storm brews as Jim runs in the woods. Tired, he collapses again and spots an airplane in the sky. The sight gives him hope. Back at the Worsley house, Selena hugs Hannah protectively while Major West commands Bedford to take them to the master's bedroom and make them look more presentable. There, they force Selena's clothes off. Getting an idea, Selena kisses Clifton and convinces him to let her and Hannah dress up by themselves. The soldiers agree to leave, believing that the women won't do anything on their own. Once they're alone, Selena hurriedly gives Hannah sleeping pills to make what awaits them less traumatic for the younger girl. However, they're caught by Clifton, who forcibly takes the pills from them. A warning siren sounds coming from their old blockade. Jim has triggered the siren. Major West and Davis drive to the blockade to investigate. Having seen movements, Davis climbs a ladder to investigate, only for Jim to hit him on the head with a crowbar. Major West hears the commotion and follows the sound. He spots Davis back in their Jeep, but when he opens the door, he realizes that Davis is dead. Major West drags Davis's body off the driver's seat and gets in. He finds the Jeep is sabotaged, unable to start. Infected people attack him, but he quickly disposes of them. He goes back to their base on foot. Back at the Worsley house, Jim uses Davis's gun to free Mailer. Inside, the soldiers guard Selena and Hannah, who are now wearing red dresses. They hear gunshots outside, and Jones becomes nervous. Mitchell and Bedford head down to investigate, leaving Jones and Clifton with the women. Hannah tells Selena that she feels the pills already affecting her. The dazed Hannah unnerves Jones. Mailer appears from the window and grabs Clifton, vomiting in his face. Selena takes Hannah and leads her out of danger. When Mailer turns his eyes on Jones, he scrambles away. Selena and Hannah head to the exit but are blocked by Mitchell and Bedford. They watch Jones getting chased by Mailer. Mitchell orders Bedford to help Jones while he deals with the women. Jim peers into the window, looking for the women. Instead, he sees Mailer tracking down Jones into the kitchen. Bedford confidently stands in the way, ready to shoot Mailer, but is attacked by the infected Clifton. Jones is hiding inside the cupboards, frightened. As Mitchell leads the women to Bell upstairs, Hannah wanders off. Selena screams for her, but Hannah ignores them. With the kitchen going quiet, Jones thinks it's safe for him to escape. He comes out of the cupboard and runs to the exit, only to be stabbed by Jim. Now inside the house, Jim avoids the infected. Major West arrives, finding Jones by the door. He comforts the dying soldier. Hannah finds the photo of her family amongst her old clothes in the bathroom. The infected Clifton enters the bathroom, but Hannah hides behind the mirror. Jim frantically searches for the women, going door to door. Instead, he finds Bell hiding behind the couch. Bell ran out of bullets and begs Jim not to leave. Clifton and Mailer break the door open and attack Bell. Jim exits through the window. Spotting Selena's red dress from another window, Jim goes inside. Selena and Mitchell hear him, and Mitchell drags Selena back. Jim attacks Mitchell, brutally slamming his head and gouging his eyes. Scared, Selena mistakes that Jim is infected. She nearly attacks him with her machete until she realizes that he was okay. The two share a kiss when Hannah walks in and breaks a bottle on Jim's head. Selena assures her that Jim was not infected. The trio head out, retrieving Frank's car. Hannah gets into the driver's seat but finds Major West waiting for them in the backseat. He shoots Jim in the stomach. Hannah puts the car in reverse, forcing the car back into the house. Major West tries to stop her, but Mailer breaks the rear window and forces him out of the vehicle. Selena helps the wounded Jim into the car, and they drive off, leaving Major West with his infected soldiers. Hannah warns the two that the gates are locked. Jim encourages her to drive straight to it, and they crash onto the gate. 28 days later, Jim wakes up after dreaming of being revived by Selena in a hospital. The three found a remote cottage near a lake where Selena stitches large amounts of fabric, and Hannah sets more fabric outside in the field. Back in the city, the infected are slowly dying of starvation. Hannah storms inside their new home, alerting the two that something is coming. The three grab the fabric from the sewing machine and set it down on the field. They wait expectantly until they spot a fighter jet pass them. The fabric they've set up spells hello on the field, alerting the pilot that they are survivors to be rescued. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.